Hi, let's prepare now to practice another ACES practice. Remember, every time we say ACES, we mean we're writing a response that has an answer, that has the citing evidence, the explanation, and the summary. Today, we're going to focus on the evidence. Remember that the evidence always comes from the text, and we have to cite it exactly as it appears on the text. Let's take a look of one example citing evidence. We're going to read this article. It's about sports. Sports have always been ruled by the weather. Rain, sleet, snow, and cold call the place. Baseball fans often sat in the rain without cover, waiting for the sun to come out and the game to begin. Football lovers sometimes took days to warm up after sitting through a freezing cold Sunday game. For both sports fans and players, the domed stadium was like something out of a dream. A huge plastic bubble kept out rain and snow. Sounds great, huh? There was heat to keep things comfortable year round. Nice, because if it's domed, it has a cover, so that means it's all closed. Okay, paragraph 2. Dome stadiums have clearly changed the course of sports. Still, they did have the problems at first. Most of these problems were discovered and solved at the Houston Astrodome. This was the world's first stadium with a cover. A stadium that is covered. For the fans, it was great, but there were some problems for the players. Baseball outfielders had the most difficult time. They had to learn to catch in a field with a roof. At first, this was almost as difficult as playing in the dark. The panes of the roof were light colored to let sunlight in. Sunlight was needed to keep the grass in the field alive, I bet. But the light roof blended too well with the white baseball. Fly balls seemed to drop out of nowhere. Even skilled fielders were making errors. Wow. Finally, the decision was made to paint the panes of the roof dark. The problem was solved. What about the grass? Well, the real grass was dug up and replaced with artificial turf. Oh, you remember that before they said that the open thing would help the grass, and now they say, oh, now they need to replace it with artificial turf. Yeah, because now if they have a stadium that has a cover, how is the grass going to breathe? It needs to breathe. So now they have artificial turf. That's artificial grass. So, as always, whenever we read a text, we're going to have questions and we learn to answer to the questions. So, let's see the first one. Why was the roof painted with dark paint? Why was the roof painted with dark paint? Okay, so they say here that the decision was made and the problem was solved. So the problem has to be something related to this. Why was the roof painted with dark paint? Okay, I know it's not in the first paragraph, it was in the second one. So let's see here. This was the world's first stadium with a lid. For the fans, it was great, but there were some problems for it. Okay, you see the but here? So I know that for the fans, it was great. So now they don't suffer from the heat, the rain, or anything like that. But there were some problems for the players. Now, look at all this that they say. There were problems for the players. The baseball outfielders had the most difficult time. And then they explained and they said that they had to learn to catch in a field with a roof. Yeah, what I know about baseball is that sometimes they throw the ball so high and so far that it may go out of the field. So, of course, if it has a roof, now it's going to bounce back. So it's going to be difficult for them to catch the ball. Then it says, at first, this was almost as difficult as playing in the dark. The panes were light colored to let sunlight in. The sunlight was needed to keep the grass on the field alive. Yeah. But the light roof blended too well with the white baseball. So, because of that, the fly balls, seemed to drop out of nowhere. And even the skilled fielders were making errors. Finally, the decision was made to paint the panes of the roof dark. So I can see that in all this part, I have my my evidence. So I don't find it just in one sentence. I have to read all that. I have to infer the answer. Why was the roof painted with dark paint? I have to answer the question. The roof was painted with dark paint. And I understand they say the was, right? Because, and here I have the problem, the players were having difficulty catching the ball. So this is in my own words. Remember, the answer is always going to be in your own words. And remember that the ACES part of the answer, the A part, is always going to be in blue. Okay, now let's get to the part that needs our attention today, is the evidence. Now I notice that my evidence is going to be in all this. This is paragraph 2. This is paragraph 1, paragraph 2. So I'm going to see what sentence I need as evidence for this answer. It was painted with dark paint because the players were having difficulty catching the ball. Now, I cannot say that the evidence is the decision was made to paint the panes of the roof dark because it is not supporting this. You have to support the answer. The roof was painted with dark paint because the players were having difficulty catching the ball. Paragraph 2 states that I have to put the comma, I have to open quotation marks, and I have to see what part of all that is going to be the evidence for this answer. Okay, baseball outfielders had the most difficult time. They had to learn to catch in a field with a roof. And then it says the pains, even skilled fielders were making errors. So it was painted dark because they were having difficulty catching the ball. I'm going to use this. Look at this evidence. It goes clearly with my answer. It supports what I'm saying. Now, states that even skilled fielders were making errors. Now, let's understand this. This evidence proves my answer. The roof was painted with dark paint because the players were having difficulty catching the ball. This is my evidence. Even the skilled fielders were making errors. This evidence supports my answer. That's our practice today. Today, our practice is you need to cite the evidence. The evidence has to be directly related to the answer. Now, would it be okay to say baseball outfielders had the most difficult time? It was not the why it was painted dark. It was painted dark because even the skilled fielders were making errors. So everybody was making errors. This one supports my answer the best. What I'm noticing in some students' answers is that they are just writing anything from the text as a support. No, the evidence has to clearly back up your answer. That's the importance of the evidence. The evidence is related to the answer. When we go back to this, we remember first is the answer, then you cite the evidence that supports your answer. Okay? All right, so now let's practice that and see that we're citing evidence, keeping this in mind. The evidence is always strictly directed, connected to the answer.